Hello everybody, my name is Jed Thone. I'm a commercial drawing pilot out of the state of New York. I do aerial photography, 2D mapping with photogrammetry, and 3D models with drone equipment. I'm making a video as part of my post here to show off what I've developed here. This is a mapping program for cemeteries. This is the Glenwood Cemetery located in the village of Champlain. Because here's the cemetery, here's the village, and we zoom out. This is as far northeast New York as you can pretty much get before you go to Canada or Vermont. Far northeast corner of the state of New York. And this map here was made via a drone that I flew over the cemetery and then stitched all the photos together into this nice map. Each pip here, each red pip, is a marked plot that we've populate all the information for. So you can tell there's a lot of plots we haven't done that yet because there's a lot of data we need to put in. So if we click on a plot, let's do Hoyle's plot here, information pops up such as the owner, the date that the owner purchased the plot, which is 1860 here, size notes, isolated semicircle, radius 25 feet, square footage 1964, and $157.12 is what he paid for it back in 1860. We can click on this pip over here. This is the Dudley plot. Date purchased 8/03/1860 for $63.27. Size notes, square footage, and all the current occupants that are buried in this plot. So it contains all that information. There's also these 4 control buttons right here. This button here, if you're at the cemetery and you're on this web page on a phone or an iPad, this is the button there that would locate you in the cemetery via GPS on your phone or iPad or other similar data device. I'm on my desktop in my office in the next town over, so it doesn't actually work in this case. It just generates an error. But this is what it looks like when you have your phone. This is a screen grab from my phone when I was testing the system. There's a blue circle that marks where I was at the time I took the screen grab. So it tells you where you are in the cemetery. And then if we go to the search button up here, this is where you can actually search. So I can type in McCree. We'll get 3 different options here. And as you can tell, there's McCree in 3 different plots. In A26A, Will McCree is the owner. In A29A, Fred McCree is the owner. In A35, which is the Dudley plot, Dorothy McCree is buried in the Dudley plot. And then you can click on it, and it'll zoom in on that plot, giving you all the plot information for that plot, which includes date purchase, the owner, price paid, size notes, and square footage. Very nifty search feature. This button here toggles the overlay on and off. This overlay is the old hand-drawn map from 1860 superimposed onto the drone map. It's not a perfect fit. It's like a as good as we could get it fit. But it shows where all the plots are and has been very handy in marking off all the plot information. But we haven't populated everything yet because we've been trying to make sure everything works correctly. So I've still got to populate a lot of this. And since the cemetery only has records of who owns the plots, not who is buried in them, filling in all the information for like all these burials means that we're reading all the information off the tombstones. But yeah, so in addition, because of the way they kept their database, which didn't include who was buried. For this cemetery, the pips mark the plots, but for other cemeteries, if they have better burial records, the maps are detailed enough that we could put individual pips on each individual tombstone, saying who that tombstone belongs to and all that information. So it's accurate enough and detailed enough to do individual tombstones as opposed to plots. And this button right here toggles another overlay, which is just like it's not the Google Street View, it's the Microsoft map, Microsoft Edge map of the surrounding area. So yeah, And this is what it looks like when you're not logged in. Now I'll show you what it looks like when you are logged in and how you add individual plot information into the system. Alrighty, so when you're logged in, there's actually not all that much that looks different initially, other than the fact that now your email is displayed in the top right, so you know what account you're logged in under. My business email's up there at the moment. But there's an additional feature that you can do now. So we'll open this up. I'll bring up the information for the cemetery right here. This is their database. And we're going to go into section B, because this is B section over here. Drag that out. Oh boy, you can see all the tabs I got open in that window. Oh no. Oh, how awful. We'll hide those, so the OCD of you don't have to see it. So adding information is really quite easy. You just click. This is plot 3 in B, so we click on the boroughs. And we can go over here, we see the boroughs information. Borough James, isolated, yada yada yada, square footage, price paid, and the August 03, 1860. This entire database, this Excel spreadsheet, is actually already loaded into the web page. So most of this information I'm not even going to have to type out. All I do is I go section B, I type in the lot number, which in this case it's 3. I type in the lot part, if there is one, because sometimes there's a and B, because as you can see with plot 4 has been split up into an A for Hoyle and B for the branches. But in this case, since the boroughs here have the entire plot, there's no A or B. We type search, and it brings up the matching entry. So we have B3, notes, not applicable in this case, size notes, the square footage, the price that was paid, and so far it is matching with what's here. And date purchased, oh, I clicked on the wrong thing, so it's matching this area here, August 3rd, 1860, price paid, matches. So we hit, yes, use these details, and now we refresh the page, and the boroughs plot is marked. It's that easy. From there, I don't actually have any information who's buried in this because the Excel database doesn't list who's buried in there. From here, if I want to add an occupant of who is buried in there, I just click on this here, and we can click Add a Grave. In this case, I'm just going to go with last name Doe, and then we're going to put in first name of John, just the example, and let's say 1900, date of birth 01/25, and date of death 1940 05/20, and then just notes, delete this after, because it's not a real person, it's just an example here, and then we hit save. And now there's an occupant listed in there. So if we go back out of this and we click on this, now there's an occupant listed. And then I can go back through and I should be able to delete them. Yep, delete person. Boom. So that is how you add and remove information onto the site. It's really as easy as we could make it. You can actually add people if you log in on your cell phone and iPad. I prefer to use, I've got a Microsoft Surface book thing. I prefer to use that because it can actually have a mouse on it, and it makes it easier for me. But you can just add all this information on a portable device. So if you're at the cemetery, you can go through and read all the tombstones and add information directly from the tombstone, which is what I did for the Dudleys here. Although in this case, conveniently, because the Dudleys have plot 34 and 35, they put a giant plinth in, and this plinth that is right there has all the names and information. So I was just able to read the plinth and then add all the different occupants directly from the plinth, instead of having to read all the individual tombstones. In some of them, there's a tombstone over here, a pair of tombstones that just says father and mother with no name, although there's a reference to them on the plinth. So that was good. So yeah, It's a really easy to use web page. There's things I would like to add to it as time goes on. I'd actually like to add a section where you can upload photos of the tombstone, upload family photos, upload documents like obituaries, death certificates if you wanted to, cooking recipes, and possibly even like family videos. But that's in the future. So far, this is what we've got working. It's a very simple to use program, and it's reached the point where we can show it to people. We still have a long way to go with this cemetery to populate everything, because they, other than the plot ownership, they have no records of who's buried in the cemetery. So we're generating the record of who's buried in the cemetery from scratch by inputting all the data from the tombstones. But I have a sneaking suspicion that actually happens a lot sometimes. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video presentation. This is what we've got going so far. It's not actually that expensive a process to do, but no one else has done it yet, because I don't think anyone else knows that this can be done. So I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. I hope you all enjoyed the idea, and ask me anything below. Talk to you later.